One of the key issues that was identified in the shellfish management planning process was a lack of communication between the various stakeholders involved. The Coastal Resources Center worked very hard to allow and provide ample opportunities through public meetings, one-on-one discussions, and events so that people within the state could sit down and get at the heart of the issue and tackle some really tough problems facing shellfish today.
The Coastal Resources Center, we've been around for over 50 years now, and we do have a method to our madness. We do have a process that we use, and we use that process, we use that method in the development of the Shellfish Management Plan. We spent the first several months just listening to people, identifying what the issues are, what is stirring the blood of the people, what are their concerns, whether it be from a regulatory perspective, a scientific perspective, an industry perspective, an environmental perspective.
It asked us to put together our thoughts in terms of where we needed to go and what we needed to know. And in looking at our shellfish resources and ways of increasing yields, optimizing our resource, using it to our best advantage without really threatening it. It allowed a whole host of researchers to really put their thought on it.
Oftentimes in my job, people try to pit the economy versus the environment. And what I've learned, and it's been reinforced through the SMP process, is that there's nobody who cares more about the health of the environment than the cohoggers who are out on the bay, or the people who are fishing for whelk, or the people who are growing oysters in an environment that has to be healthy if they're going to be successful in their livelihood. And not only that, they really, really care about water quality, the vitality, and the diversity of the environment. So our SMP process allowed us to break down some barriers and really respect that we were all headed towards the same goals. So I think it was very important that the leadership of state government was involved in the process and showed up and respected others by listening to them. But I also realized you do need to take time to educate, explain, revisit issues, and be patient with one another. And that's something we strive to do in government, but without a facilitated process or someone really paying attention to communication, it's difficult to pull that off. And I think the Shellfish Management Plan was one of the best, I would say it was the best effort I've ever been engaged with in terms of allowing people a voice in an organized, disciplined way that led to sound conclusions.
For such a small state, you can imagine that there were two environmental agencies, a CRMC and DEM, and there had been challenges between the two state agencies, and there was a lot of confusion about shellfish management and who had authority over what, and how were decisions made or not made, and this was in the context of very limited resources, and we realized that there were challenges between DEM and CRMC, and that you had conflicting interests, but also, you know, it was to mutual benefit of everyone to get this resolved. We recognized that it was very important to have a neutral body. And what we did was we were able to fund a neutral party, the Coastal Resources Center at the University of Rhode Island, to shepherd a process that held a great deal of integrity and was accountable. And through their leadership, we were able to reach out to industry, to the two main government agencies, to other universities. It wasn't like just URI had, was the sole university in this game. And that was what was wonderful about the Coastal Resources Center, was that they were open enough and thoughtful enough to include as many parties as possible from the get-go. And everyone had an equal voice, and everyone's knowledge was respected.
Then, when we started writing the chapters for the Shellfish Management Plan, we created these groups, informal groups, called technical advisory committees. So For each chapter, we organized a technical advisory committee that was made up of experts from whether they be researchers, managers, citizens, people from the aquaculture industry, from the shellfish industry, and they sat around and talked about that specific issue and what are some of the recommendations that they can do and implement to respond to the issues that were being identified.